I think this business, and I want this business to be one of the first businesses that is black owned that exits for like 100 million. I really want to do that. I think it's just got so much potential, and we just have not seen a massive black owned brand come out in a long time.
Hi, my name is Max. Welcome back to the Black Income Creators Podcast. Today I'm with Ama, owner of We Are Plantmade. Ama, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Ama. I'm the founder of Plantmade. I started Plantmade 4 years ago, and now we're one of the fastest growing businesses in the UK.
And what is Plantmade, for those that don't know?
Plantmade is a wellness brand. We think of ourselves as kind of beauty and wellness and right bang in the middle of it to help people with their concerns through plant power. So that's basically what we do.
Yeah, so I disclaimer, I do use Plantmade.
Oh,
So yes. I'm just going to talk through what my favorite ones are. So I like liquid gold for the body.
okay.
So I'm into that. And also I never know names because I know you've got all these fancy names like drizzle, rain, whatever. I think it's rain, the green
Yes,
bar for
yes,
washing.
yes, yes.
So that's my favorite. So, and I'll be honest. So I use rain, and I've seen less hair coming out using rain. You know what I mean? So that's like my go-to thing. If I have to like do an order, I always do rain. But I've got all my products here, so I've got like literally all of them. So I have like the queen, and I also gave it to like my ex as well. So I was like, he had a beard, and he was struggling, and I was like, here.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
So yeah, so we do use it, and I know that there was something with the name. I read something that you had a problem with the name at some point, didn't you? So you kind of had to tweak it.
Yeah,
So do you want to explain a little bit about that?
definitely. Yes. So our first 12 months of business, we had just hit 1 million in revenue, and we were like absolutely ecstatic. And I thought, okay, I think this could be a serious business. So let's get it trademarked. Got it trademarked. And thing is, when I was trademarking it, I saw that someone had planted, which was the old name, but what I didn't see was that the business was active. So I was like, oh, if the business isn't active, I assume that this person no longer owns the trademark. Funnily enough, they still did for just one more year. So that triggered an alert to them, and they saw what we were doing, and they were like, absolutely not, shut it down. So they tried to like try and get some money off of us and things like that, or wanted us to completely shut down. But basically we were able to go through legal and agree that if we just rebranded and changed our name, then we'd be able to go through and continue trading. So we had to shut down for 2 months, like halt no revenue in the business for 2 months straight, which was insane, to recoup. Well, no, actually, we didn't really recoup because we had to spend, I think, around 100 to 150,000 pounds to draw back all the stock that we had, rebrand it, then go get it back out to market, and we lost a lot of momentum. A lot of momentum. Someone was like, Plantmade, like that's such an amazing name, and I said thanks. um, like by force I had to come up with it. And fun fact, I actually came up with it in court. Now you might be wondering, court? What are you talking about? So whilst we were going through the cease and desist and everything and the shutdown, I had jury duty. I couldn't get out of it. So I was forced to go 2 whole weeks to jury duty whilst my business is crumbling. And I was just like, wow, how is this happening? So in between court, I was just sat waiting for like court to start again. And I came up with Plantmade, and I literally texted it to my fiance. I was like, does this work? Like, is this too on the nose? Like, Plantmade, is it too? And he was like, I don't know, let's sleep on it. And yeah, that's why it's Plantmade. So that was definitely one of the most biggest challenges that we've ever had to deal with, especially since like I was a baby in business. I didn't know anything.
But also, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like when you get that trademark trigger, what it's meant to do is, like you say, it's opening up a
Mm.
discussion around, okay, what can we do here? And like you said, they had the trademark for another year. Were they actually in a similar type of business, or was it quite different?
So yes, they were actually in a skincare business, and so I understand. I understand why we had to trademark. Yeah, 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 that we had to rebrand because yeah, if it could easily be um could easily be confused. And that's just the thing about the trademark. Because if, let's say, we were food business, no one would ever think a food business would potentially be the same as a skincare brand. But hair and skin is just too close. So yeah, we had to part ways with the name.
Oh. Who came up with the name?
I did.
Okay, then. And so, at the time when you came up with the name, did you do the whole kind of checking it everywhere, blah blah blah?
This time around, I definitely did that because I didn't want to go through it again. Oh my goodness. We just made sure that we checked. So yeah, we have plant made in the US, UK, and EU. So we have
Mm.
all of that covered.
God, that must have been scary. Because I think when you get those kind of cease and desist type letters in any kind of, you know what I mean? It's like, it's frightening. And then once you have to go down a legal route, because most people haven't used lawyers in business unless you've acquired a business,
Hmm.
it's like, yeah. And you just don't know how much that bill's going to be, that lawyer bill's going to be at
Oh
the
my
end.
God.
So,
It was like, I think it was like 20 grand. And it's funny
oh.
because it's just like, you're just sending emails back and forth, you know? That's,
And the thing is,
that's,
I'm going through something at the moment, and it's like you get it, and then they break down what it is, and they're like emails, £200, and I was like, you literally wrote a line. How is this two hundred
I just don't
pounds? You know.
understand. But I mean, I'm like, I'm all here for it. Get your bag. I just hope I never have to fund your life again.
That was their conservatory or whatever it is that they built that year. They were like, "Thank you, Anna."
Literally, literally, someone got a yeah, someone got a business class flight off of that. Fair enough,
Something, yeah. Um, and just go back to the beginning because I read somewhere that this was something that started from your own like hair issues. So you were having issues around hair loss or hair growth, and you decided, look, let me go into my kitchen and try a little something.
for sure. Yes. So basically, I just been let go from a corporate sales job, and it was very very stressful. The funniest thing is I was actually plotting whether I should quit, and then I had like a whole panic attack because I really did not like that place. Came back the day I came back. I wasn't in there for more than an hour. They got rid of me. And I was like, oh, fair enough. Yeah, the circumstances were really, really crazy. Like I do not think that was ethical in the slightest way because that was also the first time I'd ever heard that I had like performance issues. I'd never had anything since. So but from there, I just really got stressed out from that. So and then 2 weeks happened, COVID hit. So that was obviously crazy, and just seeing the surge of like the craziness of what was going on, I'm sure that also contributed to more hair falling out. But then I saw a massive surge. So whilst everyone was seeing everything that was happening with COVID, there was a massive surge of like DIY hair care, DIY skin care, people just like taking their health way more seriously. And that industry was booming. So health, wellness, beauty, these were just like skyrocketing outside of like furniture and things like that. So I was like, oh, okay, like, you know what? I've dibbled and dabbled into looking at hair remedies here and there, but let me actually, since I have the time, let me just sit down and figure this thing out. And that's what I did. I literally looked into research papers and I was seeing, okay, like what naturally is science backed to help your hair grow. But then also, I live off the land. We're people of the culture. Like we already have remedies that we've been using for centuries and thousands of years. So it was just kind of like a mix of the two. Kind of putting these herbal remedies with these natural proven ingredients together. And I was documenting it on my Instagram just to be like, hey, I had the time. And then people were responding to it like, oh, I can actually see a difference in your hair as I kept on posting my results day after day after day. And then someone was just like, okay, what is this? Because I really need help. So I sent them all the ingredients and everything that they should do. And they were like, no, I can't be bothered. Just make it for me. And I was like, wow, okay. Anyone else want me to make it for them? Because I mean, I might as well. If I'm going to make a batch, let me make a batch. And then I got 100 messages. And I was so confused because I was like, did I just accidentally start a business? Like, what did I do? I sold through those. I think I first sold the first 50 at £10, which was criminal. I should have never done. But again, like I didn't know nothing about physical business because I'd always been like a marketer. I'd always be doing digital services, so I'd never sold physical products. So I don't know anything about margins or anything like that. There you go, guys. It should pay for itself, and it did. And then I sold the next 50 bottles for £15 because I got a bit smarter. And then yeah, I was able to make like £1,000 in 10 days selling those 100 bottles. And I was like, oh, I think I have a business. Let me make this into a business. And I will say, I did see a girl. She's now since closed her business, but there was a girl called Marie. She had a handmade skincare business out in the UK, in the US, and she had just made 1 million in 8 minutes online. Like I still remember seeing that in real time, and I was like, "What?" I said, "Oh my goodness, I feel like this is a sign. Let me just go for it." So I decided to make it a real thing. Obviously, the name was planted, but I decided to brand it, name that random thing that I made that was helping my hair grow inches. Named that inches, made more of a product line, and from there, June 2020, we just started the business and kept on growing since.
Wow. Why did she close the business? That stuck with me. It's like if she was making that much money.
I don't know. I feel like she fell out of love with it. She there was a lot of issues. Like she had a lot of demand issues and things like that. And um, I just yeah, she literally just recently, I think as of last month, she made a post like, "This is it, like last sale ever." And yeah, it's sad because I think a lot of entrepreneurs came from seeing her journey, but at the same time, like if you're not in love with it, and business is too hard to not be in love with what you're doing, so I completely understand why she stepped away. So I'm glad. I wish her the best, but yeah, she really, really motivated me and so many others to start.
That's good. And how did you finance those early days? Because obviously you just lost the job. You know what I mean? You didn't even get furlough.
Oh, I didn't get furlough. Oh,
Nothing.
oh my gosh. That hurt. That hurt. Me not getting furlough hurt. Everyone was like, "Yeah, we're not even working, we're getting paid." Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. Yeah, it was brutal. It's brutal.
So how did you finance that? I mean, obviously, like you say, you put your prices up pretty quickly, but still, it's like self financing is.
Yeah, to this day, we've still financed it ourselves. With the credit line here and I think a loan there. We've not got any external
Mm.
institutional funding, and it's been difficult. And in the early days, I just reinvested every penny. I literally started out with £100. I the funniest thing is that I actually split the £100 with my brother. So the first initial payment of the ingredients and the bottles and stuff, I literally I saw it. I think April 2020. My brother sent me £53, and then I put together like another 53, another 56, and yeah, I bought the initial ingredients. So that from there, that's literally what we've been reinvesting, which has been incredible. But like beauty is high margin, but also that there's very laborious too. So it wasn't easy to make that money. We really had to push the product, but yeah, we were able to get great value from the products, and just having to really shift it. I think a lot of people sit on inventory for a while, whereas what we did was I dropped the products. So I almost acted like a clothing brand. So I'd say, guys, I made a batch. Here's the release. They'll get it. Once it's done, shut off the site. People could only purchase 2 times a month for these items. And that definitely helped to drive demand fast, to drive awareness fast, also to actually get the product out the door so that I could get that cycle of money in quickly, and then kind of plan the money well enough to make sure we could still survive.
Because you talk about it being a high margin business, and it can definitely be, especially if you get the branding right. But it's also quite a saturated market, especially in like the black space, like Afro hair, natural hair. So to be standing out in that space is quite difficult.
Yes. So I think what I noticed, so before I really decided to make this into a business, I had to look into the market. And I looked into the market and I saw that number one, there was a lot of Afro hair brands, and that had always existed. Obviously, the champions would be like your Shea Moistures, your Cantus, things like that. cheaper on the price point, but in terms of like quality and also efficacy wise, was it really solving any problem? So was it just like, oh, I'm just using this to style my hair, oh, I'm just using this to wash my hair? Like, I had hair loss and I was still using those products and they just weren't doing anything for me. So I was like, well, do they have that problem in mind when they've made these products? I don't know. I can't confirm or deny. So let me just figure this my own thing out. And I think we started straight away addressing concerns. Like, if you have this problem, you can clearly see through my testimony and also through a lot of customers, because that initial 100, and I'm so grateful that I did it, that initial 100, I was able to get before and after pictures and testimonials from them very quickly. And from there, that was the initial materials I used for the initial marketing that we did. So what I realized is, yeah, so people were just having shinier hair, or this is great for styling, but hair loss, hair regrowth, hair repair, that wasn't drilled in enough in that category. So that definitely was a differentiator for us. Number two, we were quickly able to make Plantmade a genderless business. We have 40% men buying from us and 60% women buying from us. And that has stood to the test of time. There's been very few brands to be able to achieve those. And one thing about men is that they're very loyal. Once they find something that works for them, they aren't leaving. Obviously, women like repeat more, but men are loyal. So like, there's a lot of brands that are trying to expand to kind of get men into the ecosystem now, but we've always had men. And then I think the third thing would definitely be just, yeah, our branding. Just instead of it being a hair oil, it's inches. Instead of it being hydrate mist, it's drizzle. It's something to buy into. And I purposely did that because I remember always thinking about why I love Apple so much. And they simply just have the same products as so many other brands, and they've just created their own ecosystem, and almost like they've created their own world. The iMac, iPad, the iPhone, just you're not just gonna call this, oh, it's another phone or it's a G7, wherever. Like, it is its own thing. It's kind of like you're either for Apple or against Apple. And I wanted people to kind of maybe use plant made products as a sign of like for and against. Um so that's been super helpful in being transparent in kind of like the ingredients that we're using and the position that we have in the market.
Well, it's interesting because, like initially when I got it, and this was probably 2023, I sort of stumbled across it. I think Facebook. I want to say Facebook because that's probably where I would have seen it. Like it was an ad that was running, and then when I got it, I was low key disappointed, and I'll explain why. Because I'm used to things that are branded for women, and so typically they've got more of a scent. You know what I mean? So they'll have more of like a fruity scent or more of a flowery scent. So for me, it's like it's almost like it resonates with like, then I'm getting the thing done because I can smell it or whatever. Whereas these don't smell, particularly, which then means like men are more attracted to it because obviously they wouldn't want a fruity or a flowery. Do you see what I mean? So it makes sense, obviously, in terms of like I've been using it for over a year now. But at the time, I was kind of like, what is this? Like, where's the orange? You know what I mean? I'm used to sort of like, some sort of, vanilla, something that's very, very strong, and it didn't have it. And I was like, oh, so it took me a little minute to do it. But now that you say 40% men, it makes total sense because they will be like, yeah, I could use this without having to smell like I've stolen it from my girlfriend. So I think it's quite important actually when you put it like that. Okay. And so you said that you and your brother, so did you start it together or did you just support it?
I mean, literally, like that £100 was not even like it was our batch. It was like the batch that we used first. So that kind of sample batch. But no, we didn't start it together. He worked in accounting and finance for about 10 years. So he was doing that. And I was just, I had the time. So I was just mucking about with these oils and these herbs together, putting them together. And he wanted to grow his beard. So I just threw him a bottle for free. And, He actually works with me now, building the business. He's my CFO. So it's just like a nice little full circle moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And is it like so how big is your team now? Because obviously it started just you and your Instagram. How big is it now? Because I know you've got kind of got like a factory space where things are made and
Yes. So we are 18. We are 18 and we have had fluctuations in the team. That's due to my inexperience at time, or some of our management experience, where we thought we needed loads of people, and actually no, we didn't need loads of people. We just needed one person or five people in this department, and because we produce the products ourselves as well, we've had a lot of fluctuation in that department. But we're 18 and we're good. And yeah, it's been a blessing to grow and to, even with the changing teams, just being able to maintain this business.
I think it's difficult if you're an entrepreneur because it's not like you've got a very normal structure. So when you're in that growth stage of a business, it's difficult to know where you need to put your energies and your thing. And also recruiting. I know that I recruit and I give a lot of people chances, and I'm like, they don't quite have the skills, but maybe they could grow into it. And then you're like, no, I need someone. I need someone who's actually got a little bit of skill, a little something. You know what I mean? Or more than just yeah. So I think it's really, really difficult. And like you said, there will be some fluctuation there. It's like, oh, maybe we need to put more in marketing, maybe we need to put more in operations. It kind of shifts. But now it's like you're a full grown businesswoman. It's not like a little side hustle you were doing because of the pandemic.
Yeah, this full blown business now. We were even featured on the Times this year. It's one of the fastest growing businesses in the UK, which was definitely crazy because I didn't even anticipate that that was gonna be something I would ever be on. Not to say I didn't think we deserve it, but generally, like I don't know, like I just wasn't even thinking about it. Like I'm just focused on building the business. So that accolade definitely helped put some fire up my bum to be like, okay, we're doing something. And I tend to document me building the business, and I actually have even since its inception. Um, to kind of pay it forward because the only reason why I even had an interest in business was because people were documenting theirs online. So I'm like, if any, especially Black women, I don't know, I feel like there are so many successful Black women that haven't reached their success, like their success and potential, but they haven't quite realized that potential because maybe they're scared or maybe they think they might not be good enough or things like that. Um, and I just feel like we're reared different. We can be reared different in society. So I just want to pay it forward and be like, I am a minority. I'm the daughter of immigrant parents. Like, if I can do it with £100 when I only had like 300 pounds in my bank account, like you can do it too. It's not easy, and I also showcase that as well. I'm very transparent with the rights and the wrongs that happen, but I just try and make sure that everyone who's coming after me or even who's beside me, that like we're in this together, like we're really really in this together.
It's interesting because I did when I was in my dissertation, it was around Black women and financing in the UK. So I looked at the different groups, like white men, white men, white women, Black women, and why it is that we are sort of like the ones that get the least finance. And I thought it was going to be like because banks are racist, etc., etc. The usual thing that was what I went into the sort of dissertation with. And actually, what it came down to is what you said a little bit about sort of confidence, but also it was around trust. So Black women are the least trusting group. So they tend to do things solo. They don't do things with other people. So like even Black men tended to do things as like two, three of them. You know what I mean? They're like a little posse. They'll do it. Whereas Black women, they ended up having a lot of lifestyle businesses. So they were making like 50, 60 grand, taking care of the family and doing all sorts of other stuff. But they weren't growing because they didn't trust partners. They'd been burnt before, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So actually, it was like
Wow.
half system, the systemic racism exists. Let's not, shy away
Oh
from that.
yes.
But it was also it was us as well. It's like a sort of like limiting thing where we were like, no, I have to do it all by myself and I have to do all the roles. I have to sort of, be the finance person and be this person and da da da. And most people cannot be good at all of them. like you're obviously really strong in marketing and that was your background, beforehand, that kind of stuff. And that helps. And then you had to learn how to sort of, make sure the product is delivered in a certain way. So you had to learn logistics. But some people might be really bad at finance. So the pricing might still be wrong. You know what I mean? They might still be charging a tenner, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of loop that we have in terms of how we do it. So that job that they kind of did you wrong, it actually gave you certain skills, I suppose, in terms of you use your marketing in that on that level corporately,
Yeah.
which means as an entrepreneur, you're coming into it like a lot of American entrepreneurs, like they're coming from Wall Street. You're coming in at a different level. You're not coming in at kind of street hustle. I'm going to start something.
Yeah. So the thing is, actually, I was actually doing marketing like kind of on the sly. So out the gate of uni, I was like, I'm not gonna work for anyone. I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. Like that was my goal. And I spent basically a year and a half in and out of contracts, marketing contracts. So I had a contract, funny enough, because I studied psychology at uni, and I already knew I wasn't going to pursue that. I couldn't. I don't know if I could hear that many emotional stories every single day and be okay. I was just like, I'm an empath. I don't think it can work. I love you guys, but like, I'm gonna try and help people in a different way. Like, I just was like, yeah, I know myself. It's not gonna work. And then then I fell in love with business and I fell in love with marketing. So I definitely saw marketing as the psychology of business. So I really like was drawn to it. Um, but the thing is, I was doing it on the side and it wasn't really working out. And then my mom was like, Amma, please, like, let's be guided, get a job. Like, you can't be sat here any longer, And I was like a maid in between some of these contracts. Like, I was, I used to turn over beds. Like, I used to do hospitality work. Like, I used to work in a warehouse packing, I actually used to work at Waitrose warehouse for some time. So I've done a lot of jobs in my lifetime. Like I've grinded for my pennies. And then I landed the sales job. So it was a recruitment role. So I was recruiting for a specific industry contractors. And yeah, I did that for 6 months. And the requirements were that you had to make at least 100 calls or have be on the phone for 3 hours. 100 calls or 3 hours on the phone. And I'm telling you, it was absolutely brutal. There was a leaderboard. You could see everyone's numbers on every single day, every time, like all day long. You could see everyone where they're ranking, this and that. Like it was very like it wasn't like super high pressured because it could have been worse. Like I know it could have been way more toxic than it was. Like it was just a motivating environment. That's what I'd call it. Like I
But not for you.
like it
That's
was,
all.
it was,
Yeah.
it was actually because even though I didn't want to be there, like I wanted to be in marketing. I wanted to, market for businesses and things. But I realized, okay, what are some of the transferable skills I could build? Which is why I was seeking a sales job in the first place. My thing was that they put me in a very difficult market. That was I didn't see a lot of a path to succeed. Like I think I was set up to fail, if I'm being honest. Like there were other people who like there was a guy who literally came like 2 days after me, after I started, and he was in a really easy market and he was just flourishing. And I said, I don't know, maybe it was God. I don't know. Maybe it was like, no, you can't be put in a good market because if you are, then you're gonna stay here for ages and then da, da, da. So like no. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But it was just hard from the beginning. It was hard from the beginning. So I felt like I was set up to fail. But what I really like learned so well was just that power of resilience, like to have hundreds of people on the phones tell you absolutely not, get off my line, rejection, no picking up, shut down on the phone. All of that. That builds so much character and you really can take a lot. Um, so when the business woes started to happen and those challenges and those difficulties started to happen, as much as it's hard, you just have to be in problem solving mode. And you just, okay, well, how are we solving the problem then? We can't get emotional for too long. Like, how do we solve the problem? How do we move to the next thing? How do we fix this? Like, that's kind of how my brain is wired because that was it. And also, like, try, fail, try again, fail, try again, fail. That resilience as well. Also, super necessary in business. There's so many people that try things, whether it's a product, whether it's marketing, maybe it might even be a piece of content and people are burdened by the fact that it didn't work. But it nothing has to work. Like nothing generally has to. The thing will eventually if you just be consistent and you get better over time, but nothing has to work. So I think that privilege of like I did this and it needs to work now kind of went out my head a long time ago because I learned very early. No, life doesn't work that way.
Well, I like that because actually, like you say, it's like you didn't just have like a very sort of like uni and then, what do you call it, which is what I'd kind of envisaged. And I think the fact that you've done physical jobs is actually quite key as well. You know what I mean? Because it's like a lot of people, they they would have done the same thing as you, but they would have written a whole business plan. They'd have looked at their competitors. They'd have done, you know what I mean? Rather than just cracking on and like you say, mistakes come, the mistakes come, you know what I mean? You deal with them. They would have started writing a whole thing, getting a strategic advisor to help them and da da da. And then 6 months later, they'd be like, okay, I'm going to, have this business, blah, blah, blah. So it's like actually you're more kind of like hands on hustler. What kind of manager would you say you are?
What a lovely question. I love that. That was I don't really get that. I think I try to inspire as much as I can because I realize a lot of people don't perform just due to a lack of belief in themselves. Like there's just people who just generally are maybe scared of the task ahead, what they've been set, and get overwhelmed to the point where they can just seize action. But life is not to be lived in that way. And support's always there. So I always make sure that my team members know that support is always there, it's always needed. But then I still like people still have independence. They still have the ability to bring new ideas together. They have independence to execute things. They have a level of authority in their roles. Like I try and I think maybe this was also learned from the sales job because technically the recruitment role you have to build your own business from scratch. They say build your own desk, so like that means build your own call list, build your own client list, build your own whatever. Like you have to just start from scratch and you are the one doing, you don't pass anything. And as much as you can't really take that sentiment into the world of e-commerce, like you also can like okay, own this kind of content, like drive, like figure out a video style that works and drive it home. This is yours. Like I'm not going to take this away from you, you know, and continue to double down and be more creative and refine it. Like you are the powerhouse in this, do it. Same with like kind of our website. Like I know a lot about websites, good and bad, but like you let me know what your plans are, why, prove why you think this is what you need to do. Because ultimately, like, why is it going to be beneficial if I just continuously tell people what to do every day? Like, no one's going to develop in that way, and no one's also going to have anything to back themselves with. Like, if you're going to come now for a promotion or something like that, like, you need something to back yourself with. And if you're just going to say, oh, well, I did what you said, then is there any level of like, no, I've actually grown in my role? So, yeah, I like to inspire, but I'm still there to make sure that there's still a level of quality there. And I think I also am someone who acts based on example. So I always want to be an example to people. I want to, and not to say that like I'm always right or I'm always my stuff's always working. Not necessarily. That's again, life is life. Like things are gonna not work. But like even that rate of failure and transition, okay, let's get back to testing. Okay, this didn't work. Okay, let's like that. I'm always trying to inspire that as well. Like, guys, your ideas are great, but they're also not that deep because if they don't work, now we're not gonna cry over the fact that like, oh, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? Like, okay, this didn't work. Let's move on to the next thing then. Or let's okay, well, if we tweak this, then can that work? So this is obviously something that I've learned over time. This has been a long, long journey over the last 4 years. I was not this way in the beginning, but yeah, life teaches you over time.
I mean, I think the other thing is there's I can see a plus and a minus to starting in the pandemic. Obviously, deliveries were like a big thing. So suddenly everybody was using Amazon and the Royal Mail, etc. more. But getting a team to gel in a pandemic, how did you manage that?
Oh, that was hard. I can't lie, that was hard because I mean, because I actually like the worst part of COVID had happened. Like we did have like I think there was one more shutdown, but you were actually able to work. You were actually able to work during that. So like basically the height of COVID, the height, it was all done in the house. So it was just me at home anyway. So we transitioned out of my house to a storage unit in January of 2021. So that was like a second thingy, but again, you could work a bit. Like the worst was done. So like there were people able to gel, like the production team, and to be fair, everyone was production at that point. There was no other roles, so everyone was gelling. And then when we started to now, okay, you need to take over the site. You now need to do R&D. You need to do finance, and then things started to get a bit ooh, because some people were working remotely, and even now, like I can see the people who work remotely. There's just like a difference than those who are in the office like 4 or 5 days a week. Like you could just feel it. Like even, quickness in communication, like how we're able to solve problems. Like I'm able to turn and be like, okay, cool, real quick, sorry, da da da, okay, cool, and vice versa. They're able to ask me quick questions, like, or they're able to pick up on certain information, or we sometimes we just have just random chats, like we'll just go really deep into a specific topic just to like add some clarity. It wasn't planned, it wasn't in the meeting, but you just miss those things. So I think that's been the most difficult thing. Um, Growing a team in COVID and post COVID because now there's expectation of remote teams, even remote talent to the point where you could be out the country, international talent. And I wonder because I actually was talking to a group of entrepreneurs at different levels. Some people were even managing teams. Sorry, not team size, but like revenues of like 25 million and things like that. So very good businesses. They were also still struggling with team. They were also seeing that they could tell those who were remote and who weren't in office were struggling, and they're maybe putting in an initiative to bring team members into the office as much as they could. So I think it's still a growing problem, but I think I also need to be like with the times and maybe figure out a good balance between okay, giving people flexibility, but then also like actual performance and team morale.
It's a tough one. I think hybrid working in any scenario, it's like it's difficult because some people actually do work really well remotely. You know, like I would say, like my best workers is in the Philippines, so I have no contact with them whatsoever, at all. But they get the job done. They're like the way they do it, I'm happy with. And the people that are closer might actually, even if I do see them, might not be the ones that are really good in the office. So it is a really it's a tough one to be flexible, but at the same time getting the outcomes that you want as an organization. Um, it's like you say, I think it's an ongoing conversation for another few years. I don't think anybody's quite cracked it. If they say they have, I think they're lying because it's a personality thing, and a lot of people's personalities changed in COVID. So like those that they got used to working at home and they work better at home, or other way around. Some people were like, my mental health can't deal with this much alone time. I need to be I need to be with people. It's very varied. I wanted to go back to sort of like immigrant parents. You said your parents from Ghana?
They are from Ghana, yes. I'm the only
Okay,
one in
cool.
my family who wasn't born in Ghana. I
Really?
am.
Are you the
I
youngest?
am the youngest.
The baby. Okay. All right. And so so the others are like, yeah, yeah, you're Ghana, but you're British Ghana.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
So when they came, did they come in and come to this country and they did like normal jobs, or did they have to do that like the immigrant
The
hustle?
immigrant hustle, all their qualifications, they were teachers back home. All their qualifications didn't mean a thing here. They just weren't recognized. So they had to reschool, even though they'd went to university, done masters, they had to do university, masters again. Um, Luckily for, I guess, my parents, they're very studious. So that wasn't a problem. They both went to Oxford Brookes, but they were cleaning, they did so many care jobs, odd jobs, things like that. My dad's now a mental health nurse at kind of a scary place. I don't know if you know Broadmoor. like a mental health hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, yeah, it's like a mental health prison. It
Mental health prison.
is actually, and he works there, and I'm like, what? Are you okay? Like,
So what did you say he's a psychiatric nurse?
yeah, yeah. So he like deliver he administrates a medication and things like that.
PRN.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's needed. Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of forensic mental health in that space.
yeah. So like I was like, wait, was I inspired by my dad to do psychology? Like I was trying to figure out where I was going with that, but like maybe I was actually. I'm not, maybe I was.
I think so. The thing is, I think, like you say, maybe the psychology, but even it's like the work ethic
Oh,
that you talk about. So that thing of like the cleaner jobs, the carer jobs that a lot of our parents had to do. My mum had to do the same thing, even with a master's degree. They still didn't recognize it. She had to start again, and I think people forget that. But us as children watching it, we're like, okay, this is how we need to work to get
yeah.
stuff done. What did your mum?
My mom, she was a teacher, but then she stopped teaching because of me. She was like, "Oh, like I need to make sure that I'm around." So she went into care. She's been doing care for a while now, but she actually helped me. She comes in like once or twice a week into Plantmade to help. And the funniest thing is she's supposed to be retired. She retired last year, but she still comes in, and I'm like, generally, I don't like. I thought I always beef her when she's trying to come in. She's like, "Oh, I'm coming in." I'm like, "Why? What's the?" But she just, yeah, she loves what we do. She loves the mission, and she just is happy to help in any way, form. So, like, I call her my role boss.
And I think it's nice. I don't know that certain parents can retire. Like my granddad was 92 and he was still working. No, 94 when he passed, and he was working and the day before he died, sort of thing. It's like, he found stuff to do within the community. This is in South
Mm.
Africa, but he found stuff to do in the community. They never retire. He was helping the clinic next door with their paperwork. I don't know. I think in a way, like it keeps them going. It keeps their energies at a
Yeah,
certain
that's
level.
fair. That's fair. And I won't knock her. So like there'll be times where I'm like generally like you've done a bit much this week, like calm down. She'll be like, fair enough, I hear it. And then there'll be times where she'll be like, no, I'm coming in. So good balance. I don't think I set out to start a family business. Like I generally don't think that was a purpose. Like some people generally are like, yes, we're doing this, but like because even my fiance works with me as well. He was like my actual first proper hire.
Really?
But yeah, but he actually was a consultant for manufacturing businesses, and he has his degrees were in engineering. So like he actually like that's the thing. Like my brother, he had 12 years in finance. My fiance has like he actually used to consult multi-million-pound businesses on how to kind of fix their operations and perform better. So they weren't just there. I actually like, well, I think we all have complementary skill sets. Why not?
That's interesting because, like, although it's a black women-led business, you've got two guys sort of quite pivotal in your structure, which is probably again why I think the products reflect that. That they're not, if it was me, I think nearly everything would be pink just because I'm a pink girl. Literally, I would be that person. So in a way, it's like I think it's the hires, whether it was conscious or subconscious, the hires have develop the brand into
Hmm,
what it is
that's
now.
fair.
Sort of
I've never thought about it like that.
male friendly brand because I think most aren't. Hmm. And so, where do you think you're gonna go with it? What is your thing? Are you gonna be like, I need to dominate the states? I need to take over that market. I need to get into Africa more. I mean, where are you going?
So I think Africa is very interesting because it's still new, untapped potential. What I'm seeing is there's a lot of emerging markets. So a lot of people are doing business in the UAE. A lot of people are doing business in Asia. A lot of business is happening in Asia, and I'm like, ooh, I actually could potentially be going to India the end of the year. So that's gonna be. I'm just like, you know what? Yes, mind think outside the box. Everyone always looks to the US, and we already do about 35 to 40% of our revenue in the US. So we already do that. And not to say we don't want to grow it. Oh, we've barely scratched the surface with the US. Like, if we take over New York alone, that one state, that is the entire UK. Like, we could absolutely kill the business. But um, I think it's just about really being tactical and thinking, well, what are maybe some of the moves that are obvious that we should maybe stay away from, and some of the things that aren't so obvious that could be like unique to kind of take on. So I've always been like thinking in that way, and kind of how the business has been designed thus far has always been like where there's little gaps where we can just kind of like move into, you know? So I think this business, and I want this business to be one of the first businesses that is black owned that exits for like 100 million. I really want to do that. I think it's just got so much potential, and we just have not seen a massive black owned brand come out in a long time. And there's a few of us now that could be that. And I just think, let's go for it. If I'm able to, sorry, not if, when I'm able to achieve it, let's speak into existence. When I'm able to achieve this, that means I will be able to create, or a few of us will be able to create some of the first black funds that would then be able to fund other businesses. So outside of myself and striving to create wealth for myself, I also want to pay it forward because I've been going through the raising process these last few months, and seen how I've seen how difficult it is, and no one's saying anything explicitly because no one will. No one will say, "Oh, we don't want to invest in you because you're black." But they would never say that, and not to say they even might be thinking that, but I'm seeing certain patterns where things aren't making sense. Oh, you're too big. Oh, you're too big for our small fund. You're too small for our big fund. But I'm seeing other people with other revenue numbers still land financing. Okay, there's people saying, "Oh, we're doing too much because we have hair and skin," and it's like, what? There's so many other businesses that are doing that. They're saying, I'm like, I don't know what this means, but this doesn't make sense to me. And this has nothing to do with black owned brands. This is just the landscape. I've seen so many brands go in and out of different synergistic categories. So I don't see the problem here. I'm also hearing, yeah, oh, I just don't know. But like, I'll come back in 4 months and we'll see how it goes. Basically, let's see how you do in 4 months and we'll think about it. So I'm just like, this is so difficult for someone to take a chance for you. And how many people that look like me have they had conversations with? Probably not a lot. So already it's just like they're kind of labeling Plantmade as a lifestyle business and just this is cool, but like I don't know. And the funny thing is with our revenue numbers, I don't know how that we needed more than that, but yeah, we have to prove ourselves. So I think right now I'm just focused on, well, let's get the business to a point where it's unarguable how valuable we can be.
But you know what? If you're looking at £100 million exit at some point, I mean, when that happens, I think the fact that you haven't got equity anywhere else, it's 100% owned, is one of the most valuable parts of that exit. It's really difficult to exit when someone has 20-30%. So I know what you mean in terms around growth, and it would be nice to have like a really good injection and be like, and you blow up, and you don't have to do the kind of like organic grind, as it were. But in another way, I'm like, yeah, 10 years from now, if you're looking at exiting in 10 years, then you would be looking at it completely differently. So I like the fact that you're 100% owned. I think that's kind of nice. When Sheer, is it Sheer Curly Sheer or Sheer Moisturizer? I can't remember the name of the brand. Yeah, Sheer Moisture. When they kind of like sold or whatever, I can't remember what they did, or that was disappointing to a lot of people. They were like, oh, so it's no longer, oh, you know what I mean? Because they'd bought into the story, and I think the storytelling is such an important part of why people sort of, and that's one thing I think your brand's really strong at is the storytelling. And it's not just at the beginning when you're looking for the sale, it's like post sale, you send emails and stuff like that. So it helps. That storytelling is really kind of like it keeps people invested in the brands. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I'm not sure about raising equity.
That's fair. I think what I realized is because the question was, is this a lifestyle business? And it's not. Because I still live at home. Like I'm not like I actually am reinvesting like so much of this business back into itself. I see the potential for like generally like for it to have longevity in the industry. I do. I definitely do. I still don't think someone's able to commercialize our heritage the way that we have. Like for so long, it's been out of the kitchen, like out of the kitchen, out of the kitchen. But we got out of the kitchen and grown and grown and grown. So I'm just like, I just want us to have a platform. Like there's so many brands that have been able to kind of champion their heritage, Japanese, Indian, Korean. Why not African? Why not some of our kind of secrets being championed in the industry? But I will say, the ultimate goal is to sell, and I had to also reconcile with this because I too was like, oh, you sell out. Or some people were saying, oh, these guys are sellouts for selling, and it's generally like, am I gonna be here forever? Like, you know,
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think an exit is a noble thing to have. I think it's how it's done and it's part of the story, isn't it?
that's how it's
And
done. It's
you do
important.
it differently.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think you would do it differently, like I say, because even stuff like, and you can see our customer, even stuff like you say to people like, don't think this is going to be like instant. Like it's going to take, some months. So don't do this thing of like you use it once and you're like, oh, why hasn't my hair all grown back? You know what I mean, etc. So I think it's like you have a different relationship with the audience, etc. Maybe than they did. So that's why with theirs it just didn't land well because I think it was a bit of a surprise. Whereas I think before you'd be telling people like, oh, there's a big announcement. You know what I mean? That you're a storyteller, so there's a bit of a difference to how you would do it. I think so. It's not the exit itself. It's just it just came out
oh,
of
it is
the
how it comes.
blue.
No, it is because it just drops, and you're like, okay. So yeah, definitely will always. I always have like the customer at heart, and I always think about the right thing to do there. So I think, yeah, I think when that time comes, it will be a glorious day because I think it's like all that hard work paid off. But then I just, yeah, I probably will be, in the business to some capacity, maybe, and then yeah, paying it forward for those behind me who are
Yeah,
ill.
definitely. And what interests do you have outside of the business? Because a lot of entrepreneurs are so like they can easily spend 100 hours a week on that business. You know what I mean? So what do you do outside? What does Amma do to relax?
Oh, relaxing is hard at times. There's times where I'm very good at it, and there's times when I'm not. The times when I'm best at relaxing is when I have a show. I love TV. I love TV.
Oh,
So
really?
I'm constantly, probably every week, I'm always at the cinema. Like I've loved film since I was 12. Um, so I watch like all the Oscar stuff, and yeah, I just love falling in love with other people's stories. And when a film's done well, I really, really enjoy it. I also do I do gym, especially this year. That's been something that's been very beneficial for my mental health, movement. Tried out a few things as well. Tried out Pilates, yeah, I think a week and a half ago. That was cool. I did some running. I literally did a running challenge where I ran 100K, run 100 kilometers over a month. Um,
That's really
yeah, which
good.
was yeah, that was crazy. I was like, how am I doing this as the first time? But yeah, it was cool to kind of push myself and do that. So yeah, like I that's definitely been a lot for me. But I also just love spending time with people. Like I love. I've definitely poured a lot more into my friendships this year because I think a lot of people just assume that because I'm a business owner, I'm busy, or like I don't have time for people, but that's not the case. Like I make so much time for my friends, but I also recognize the seasons where I need to be a little bit more um introverted, a little bit more like especially this season, like these next few months, this is like biggest time of the year for us. So like I've been there for a lot of people over the last few months, the last year, in fact. Now I need to pour into
Mm.
me, pour into the business, focus, and then December, let's celebrate all that hard work paid off.
And how do you navigate that thing of like, you're changing as an individual, your business is growing. How do you navigate maintaining friendships and relationships? I mean, obviously, like you said, he was higher and he's dealt with businesses much bigger, but how do you navigate that space?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think my friends have realized I have not changed. Like I have changed, but because I'm like becoming more and more of a woman every day. But then I haven't changed in terms of I haven't like made the business my personality. Like I haven't like the success hasn't gotten to my head, and I think it's just because like I just see it as a job. Like as much as yes, like it's a job that's can be over encompassing. It's a job at the end of the day. Like when my friends are successful with their jobs, they're successful with their jobs, and same with me. Like I'm successful with my job, and that's that. So like it's
Mm.
not who I am, and I think for some people, I don't, and I think there's very few people left in this world that are still like this. But some people, they are their achievements, they are their business, and sometimes that's negative because some people are like, oh yeah, well then I'm, you know, that person, and other people it's actually like, oh, if they aren't successful in business and they almost take that as a hit. I've been learning over the last few months to like you you still have value whether your business is doing well or not. Like it doesn't dictate.
Define
Yeah, it
you.
doesn't define you. It doesn't take dictate your value. It doesn't dictate your you
Mm.
know your worth. It doesn't dictate any of
Mm.
that. So that's how I come in. I'm a very transparent person. I'm very I wouldn't even say the word humble. I don't believe in that word to a degree. I just think I'm human and I'm just acting human because I am one. So it's a human thing. And I think maybe, again, the psychology thing, I just always known that like it's never that deep. it's, I'm
No,
never going to get to that point because I know that I know too well. So I always keep my friendships and relationships at that level.
that's good. And I mean, one of the things you talked about is like this brand started basically on Instagram. Was it Instagram where you thingy? So, did you already have a large following when you started this? So you were just starting off with like your friends and a few people that you followed, kind of thing. So a few hundred people or something
Yeah,
like that.
so I had a bit of a following on Twitter, but I actually didn't run the business at all through Twitter.
Mm,
And Twitter
mm,
also, just because you have followers, the way it works doesn't mean that anything's gonna happen anyway. So I was actually just documenting my business journey there, but I was selling through Instagram. Like that's kind of how it's always been. So yeah, I literally had 1,000 followers personally. I had 1,000 followers to my name. So I really, really built this thing from scratch. Um, that was like the main thing.
And I think that's important for people to think about because I think a lot of times they think, oh, I have to have 50,000 people before I'm going to be able to sell anything. And although you sold initially to that, you had to have grown that. You can't just be like, okay, I've got my 1,000. There's only so much they could all buy. So you had to have grown
True.
it off
It's
that.
true. Yeah.
And, yeah. And you're not targeted, it's not a black targeted business, although we do use it. Don't get me wrong. It's like, it's actually quite cleverly done in it could be anyone who has like hair loss, hair growth wants, etc., can use these project products, isn't it? So it's not like it's a black only
No,
product.
it's not. And it's funny because even though like due to like marketing capacity, we haven't been able to show how diverse our product line is and how diverse our customer base is, but we generally have every person under the sun. We have South Asian men, we have South Asian women, we have Latinas, we have Latinos, we have white women, men, white men. Like we have everyone under the sun. And it's been great to see that that message has penetrated. Even though I'm a black-owned founder, sorry, I'm a black founder. I still have been able to attract other people, and that's been great. The only thing though is that when it comes to like in-person stuff, we haven't had that many interactions with people. Like I think we had like I feel like maybe I'm not sure. But like this pop up that we just had like a few weeks ago, like that was
Oh
probably
yeah,
the least diverse pop up we've had. But the first pop up that we had 2 years ago, it was very diverse. Like we had a lot of
was
people.
this East London,
It was, it
Stratford or
was, it
Hackney?
was. So yeah, 2 weeks ago it was Hackney.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of always done it in East London, but yeah, we need to also get out and see it, more of our customers in person. But yeah, no, I also made that a point. Like, why does a black owned brand have to be for black people only? Like, surely these ingredients don't say yeah only for black people. Like, I'm sure just demonstrating that it needs to be used differently per hair type is all you need to do. That's what I wanted to
Mm.
do, and that's what we thankfully achieved.
Yeah, and you've done a lot around the hair. Are you going to do, and then there is a couple of skin things. Are you going to do a lot more around skin moving forward? Is that what we
That's the
have to
funny
watch
thing.
for?
Like, I don't know, based on like some of the feedback from the investors and stuff, like they just think we're doing too much. And I'm like, I'm so confused here. So I don't know. It has to be a pulse thing because I've been sitting on so many ideas for years now.
Please do skin.
So
You know what? Body skin, it's quite the market is quite well taken care of. However, face is the bit where I find it's really difficult to find products that work really well with drier skin, etc. Whatever. So I feel like there is still like that thing where there isn't that one brand where you could go to and you'd be like, yeah, they do everything for your face, etc. Stuff like that. So if you could do that, that would be brilliant. I think the investors are saying, which is I kind of get it, is that you see this thing of natural hair, we've got like 8 different things. They're seeing that and they're like, that's too much because they don't understand that process of like, there's a process to do, managing your hair or managing your
mm-hmm.
beard. So that's why they're like, yeah, there's already too many products in the mix. They don't get that people, men and women want to take that time to invest in their hair and so they're not getting that. So that's probably why they're like, yeah, skin would be too much. But I'm not sure if I buy that
I'm not
argument,
buying
if
it
I'm
either
honest.
because there's literally a brand called Gisu. Um, the the brand owner, she's from the Netherlands, and they are supposed to be a hair care brand powered by bees because they're beekeepers. That's her family's like what line of work. But they have lip oils, they have a body oil, and I'm just looking at them like they just do whatever they want. Bear in mind, they're one of the most successful businesses currently on the market, and they're hopefully going to sell soon. Not hopefully, like in a bad way, but like that's what the market is saying. Um, and I'm like, so you see that? What is it? Just because like, so I'm my in my head, it's almost like if you're gonna justify a bet, you basically have to outperform someone's doubts. So if we are gonna do something, it just has to be so successful that even though someone would have thought not to do it, the market said otherwise, and oh, it's so successful that I can't really say anything. Like fair enough, like it has to be one of those. That's what I'm realizing after like I've had probably 100 conversations with investors now over the last 3 months, and it's just very clear that you just have to outperform their doubts about you.
Yeah, you do. And what are you thinking about in terms of retail? What do we have? Are you going to be something where I pop into my local Boots?
Well, I would absolutely love to do that. I think retail is super important for our category. It's hard though. It's hard to win those contracts. You're fighting against so many people. And again, it's one of those things where you would really want them to come to you, and that's because you've done so much that yeah, like someone needs to. Okay, we need that because what I'm learning, and I've learned so much in business. What I'm learning is that what a retailer really wants from you is that they want you to bring people to their store. It's not that you get to now leverage the people that were already shopping with Boots. No, they want you to bring new people, new categories of customers to the store and then bolster up their sales because they could potentially buy more things and that means that's more sales across cross sales across the store. So they want that. So can you prove that you can do that? Is the question. So that's been the thing. Now, to say that that's with every single brand in retailers, absolutely not. A lot of them people have connections. People are maybe ex Boots. Some people are ex Selfridges. They're ex of these things, or they know someone, or their investors. That one person on the board is from. You know, so I've learned so much that there's just so much behind the scenes connections that some people, when you see them succeed or you see them get an opportunity, it's because of their network. So basically, be so good, you can't be ignored. And that has just been the thing that's been drumming in my head. So I would love to. It's going to be a process, but yeah, we're looking forward to it if and when it happens.
I'm sure it will happen because these things happen. I mean, it's only been 4 years.
Yeah, we're still early. Like we actually are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's like sometimes we think, oh, it should be further along. No, not for this kind of business anyway. It would be rare to have gotten to this point by now
For
anyway.
sure.
So even so, I think sometimes you've got to, give yourself some grace
Oh, thank
around
you.
around these things, and take your time. Where can people find it online? Then is it the same social handles or?
Yes, the same social handle. So it's We Are Plant Made and then weareplantmade.com. That is us. If you want to find me, Ama Amo-Agyei on TikTok or AMAA underscore official. That's me on Instagram and Twitter. Um, but yeah, literally like it's been a whirlwind and yeah, I'm just looking forward to just changing the industries that we're in, whether it's the business industry, whether it's the beauty industry, just bring more.
Well,
Yeah,
that's quite interesting because you're actually in different industries. So you could easily say, "Oh, this is like a beauty industry thing. It's just beauty." Do you see what I mean? It's just brands. But like you say, it's not lifestyle business, but it's a way of life. So it's like if people are moving away from using products in the way that they have before, and it's like a well-being thing, then they are changing. They're changing behaviors. If you're changing behaviors, it's more than just a beauty thing where people are slack on a bit of mascara. So yeah, there is something around
one
that in
hundred
terms
percent.
of.
Especially as we are actually very sustainable. Like it's not something that we shout about, but like underlyingly, like a lot of almost everything that Plant Made does is super sustainable. So even like the fact that our shampoo and conditioner bars are like so successful, it means so many people are now not using plastic. So like that's amazing that we're contributing to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. So I think it's that, and there's so much else that could be done. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. And like I said, I follow it quite a lot anyway because I'm on the mailing list, so I see when things like snow are coming out and all sorts. I'm always interested in the names. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the names are just like they're so hard to come up with, but they're so fun. It's just again, we just can't be associated with what's on the market. Like I know it just needs to have its own identity just to try and fight to stand out.
Well, like I like what you said about it being like an ecosystem of itself, of its own. And I think that's really important as well. So it's not just a brand, it's like an ecosystem, and people need to understand that. Because actually Inches Pro could just be a brand by itself. That could be the one thing that goes off, and you know. So it's interesting in terms of looking at it differently. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak to us. It's been I think it's for me it's been interesting because I've always kind of wondered a little bit about a brand that I use. So I'm always kind of like, oh, okay, well, what's the story? What's the, how did it become? And I've seen the videos, etc. But doesn't you don't always get every little bit.
It's
So
true.
it's been
Oh, it's
useful.
amazing. It's been amazing having a conversation with yourself. Yeah, it's
Thank
been a pleasure.
you.